Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck, Happenings YouTube, Atheist Community, and Debate Night. Interaction. Fun. Anyway, I don't know what to call it anymore. Failure. That's what we could call it. Or something like that. Yeah. Still working on it, Still, everything's just a work in progress, right? Trying to get something to happen on the internet. Paul's ego came in last night, so that was nice. I haven't seen Paul in a while, and yeah, he was a little glum. But I love that. It's one of my favorite personality traits in people. So it was nice to have a little political conversation with a. Paul's just easy. Paul. Paul is disengaging in a way. He does command some attention through some mechanism of his, some mind control thing, where he does seem to be able to. He'd probably make a very good veterinarian or something. Very good with animals. But anyway, that's beside the point. So yeah, just Paul. Imagine I just said a whole bunch of nice things about Paul. Okay, there, we did that one. So the other person on YouTube, I guess I wanted to make some reference to. Well, I mean, last night. I guess I'll just finish last night. Yeah, sort of the same cast of characters and same routine, and that's sort of the problem. Got to get some new characters in the routine. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, now we're done. Yeah, it was just it's okay. I mean, some of it was acceptable, and some of it wasn't. Skibby trolley guy in the beginning was really annoying. All the pop-ins, and I had an ad that was going over the whole window, and I couldn't get rid of it. And finally, we did go away, which was good, because it was really obnoxious. And a few sign-in issues and blah blah blah. The usual technical crap. It's such a very good medium, and it's just so sad that nothing's being done with this capacity to communicate, on the internet in these very deep and rich ways, and that somehow people can't organize anything, and that's really the problem. People don't have the skills or the time, to do this stuff, and so we're dependent on businesses to do it. And if you have to monetize, human communication, then I guess the communication's just going to be a bunch of, TNA, and we sort of get what we deserve because we won't, as a society, say it's worth investing in the character of our civilization. And this is one of those character of your civilization kind of medium and mechanisms. We should have a mechanism where we can challenge the authorities in government, and challenge the authorities in science, and have conversations about what the realities are here, and who's pulling bullshit, who's committing shenanigans. We should be able to do that in a very productive, constructive, and public way. But anyway, certainly without the skibbies, the useless scabs. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to go for a run, so I'll do this in pieces, I guess, and hopefully stitch it together properly. So anyway, the other thing I wanted to talk about was Warbles On a Lot had his 3-year anniversary, I guess. And, I really, I don't like Warbles. I mean, he's a jerk. But he has some skills and talents that are interesting. I mean, this whole idea of making videos from your cell phone, and, hitting the pause button, and, keep refreshing the screen so he can do that, and it's just very clever and diligent and persevering of him, to find a way to do that, and you got to admire that just for what it is, and the fact that he does it in a way that is a little bit interesting and creative. You have to give that some credit. He's a little more humble about his sunfoil in his latest version of the history of it. And so that was, he wasn't talking the 25% crap anymore, and he was acknowledging that cars that have a decent regulator and alternator system aren't going to benefit from it much, if any. So he was making some concessions to the critics, the naysayers. That part I didn't like. I mean, he mentioned Desert File, Desert File didn't really give it any deep consideration in his review of the efficacy. So that was sort of bullshit. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. The point is he was a lot more humble, which made him a lot more tolerable. So anyway, yeah. That's all to really say about it, I suppose. Like I said, I don't really, I find him so obnoxious on so many levels that, if I talk too long about him, it's just going to start turning into a rant about what a lunatic he is. And that's not the point of this mention, I suppose. I'm just trying to give credit where credit is due and acknowledge 3 years of interesting internet production, YouTube production. He did an interesting thing and did it in an interesting way, and tip of hat, so to speak, thing. So anyway, I said anyway again. The more I obsess about not saying it, it seems my brain is focusing on it. So this would be an interesting brain experiment. Is the idea that here I've recognized I don't want to say a word. A program says the word is stupid, don't do it. It's recognized a flaw in the anyway program, and now it has to somehow get it out of the cycle, somehow get it out of the habit train. And it maybe just be interesting now that I'm so focused on that, kind of how the brain does that maybe I'll gain some insight into how you reconstruct a brain habit-wise in these simple ways. I mean, obviously you're not going to undo hard conditioning with a thought process, but vocabulary habits maybe can be changed through just a mere thought process. Anyway. Yeah, God, amazing. Really have to think before I speak. Well, I can't really do that, can you? Nope. So, in other news, that's not really work. I'm going to run, so I'll get back to you later. Probably, most likely. Yeah. There's a high probability, but certainly not absolute. Okay, I'm back, I think. I hope so. See how it goes. Anyway, get back to my lovely home. Well, not that lovely, but whatever. Charming, maybe. I'd let the asparagus go to seed here. I don't know if you can see them in there in their cage. But, some of them, I don't know. Yeah. Well, worried about them. Anyway, worried about them. It's a silly thing to do, was worried about an asparagus plant. Anyway, so I just had one of those little adventures you have in life where you have a problem with people, and you have to have some sort of conversation, about how you're being treated, or some respect issue. And it's always kind of awkward in life when you have to say something to somebody, something obvious about how they're disrespecting you or mistreating you, and I just find it so uncomfortable to have to say something about that, because you're, in a way, it's just such an overt insult to somebody to say, well, look, I know you're kind of gaming me, I know you're just trying to, you're taking advantage, and because it's sort of an implication to the other person's motivations, and and you don't know how serious to take the offense, because obviously in some relationships you are being just completely maniacally used by somebody. They don't really have any genuine concern for your welfare or you, and they're just, taking. And, and then there's honest mistakes people make in terms of taking somebody for granted. I mean, that's a thing you can do. You can just take somebody for granted, not on purpose, but just because you've been too distracted by something, or you're just a bit of an asshole. Sometimes you're just an asshole. So I'm just saying it's impossible to have the conversation without it being, and having veils of accusation in it, and it's just a very awkward thing to have to argue for fair treatment, because there's no way of doing that without you sounding like you're being, abused, and that you're being abused deliberately by them. And so there's just an automatic accusation built into it. But I have to concede that part of me says, well, yeah, the accusation's legitimate, even though there's always explanations and, oh yeah, well, I just we didn't realize, or did this, some other kind of bullshit, and you just don't know where to throw all that stuff, in terms of what does it really add up to, though? What's the real deal? And then you just start measuring your own advantage. Do I have a reason to maintain or sustain, a circumstance that, just compromising my own welfare or something, so you become just as maniacal or calculating in judging the relationship for its value to you. And but it always, it's sort of inevitable. It's just so hard to take that out of any kind of relationship with people. They're all kind of need-based in some respects. Somebody needs somebody more than they need them, kind of thing. And they're all kind of usury in a way. And it's just a truth of human interaction. And it's hard to... It's just difficult, that's all. It's nothing, I don't have any insight into it. I suppose I'm just talking about it just because it's a circumstance I've run into a few times where, I think I'm getting dissed. And, and I'll fight back, so to speak, and that I'll do something about it eventually. I'll let it bug me for a while, and eventually I find a circumstance where they say something or there's some trigger, and I just say, well, fuck this bullshit. Here's my list of grievances. So I sort of had that thing, it was just, I've been kind of rolling this in my head for a week with this problem, and I just finally let it forced a resolution of it. And even though it's resolved, I just don't, the resolution is kind of, I'm not sure if this is really fixed, and so we just have to see how it evolves. You just have to wait to try to build a new kind of relationship, with this lingering accusation of, who's helping who, and who's the charitable one, and who's given more, and I get it. It gets so calculated that it just takes all the fun out of any kind of human relationship when you have to think about those kind of things. Well, that's why relationships with people and friendships and all that stuff is always kind of complicated, and it makes it sort of unpleasant that that's part of the fact of the game we must play, and the fact that we can't really live any other way than as isolated individuals that do commerce with each other, even if the commerce is emotional support or structural support or some other kind of support. And it just gets irritating because once you say something, then all the stuff you do because you don't mind doing it gets put in the same category as the stuff you do mind, And so now they're paranoid about asking you to do anything, because now everything's going to be a part of this atmosphere of exchange, and you don't want to you don't want things to have to be exchanged. So I guess from my perspective, I guess I would argue that the original problem exists because of somebody taking not a little bit of advantage. I mean, not like accidental measures of advantage. I guess that's the drawing line. You know, is you don't mind if somebody disses you in these ways that are okay, you can find excuses for. But when they're just a little bit, there's a line, and yeah, once they cross over a certain line, it's just too glaring use or abuse, and you just have to say, you know, there's no way that's a mistake. You know, it's obviously an indication of, you know, just a complete lack of respect for my time. You know, and that's just not a good thing. So, yeah. Anyway, it's just one of those little hassles of life. Yeah, I just didn't need that today. I was feeling kind of good and just kind of a downer. But, you know, I guess the good news is you know, I can maybe, you know, reconfigure my schedule to be a little more productive on things that are more obviously to my advantage instead of other people's, something like that. So anyway, that's the story. Sorry, this isn't really an appropriate point for it, but it just happened in the middle of this making of this video, so I thought it would be relevant to throw it in there. Well, it's not even that I thought that, it's what's on my mind, and I'm doing this what the fuck video, and so I'm sort of stuck. That's what I end up talking about. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, it's sort of related, I guess, you know, in a sense, you know, there's this mass murderer thing, this kid who killed these people, you know, because he was, you know, miserable, and blamed everyone else for his misery, I guess. And, you know, it's just, you know, obviously with so many people on Earth, you're going to have people that have these emotional imbalances, and, you know, they don't accurately define the problem, kind of a problem. I mean, it's, you know, on its face, it's really silly to have an expectation that other people like you or respect you or appreciate you. On its face, it's kind of silly. And especially in the broader sense, where the world doesn't make any deals with you. There's no contract that they violated, spoken or unspoken. There's no contract that says you're entitled, so you can't really gripe about that. So I guess I could say that I can see logic in you know, thinking the whole game is broken, but to blame pieces of the game or something, it's just so to personalize it, as if the game was out to get you personally. It's, you know, such a flaw in his judgment. But, you know, obviously you have to be pretty flawed in your judgment if you think you're going to solve a problem by killing other people, and, you know, people that don't have any power or influence over the world. And, you know, that's, you know, not going to solve any big problems on planet Earth. So, no, I mean, not much to say. You know, crazy is as crazy does, and just another crazy who kind of picks silly targets. You know, with all the evil in the world, it's, you know, they go find the smallest criminal and beat them to death with a sledgehammer. Yeah, you know, it's like you're living in a city where people are committing on the street murders and rapes and beating old ladies and doing all kinds of horrible things, and you go find a jaywalker and beat him to death with a sledgehammer, and you're just like, what's the sense in that, buddy? Jeez. Sorry, a wobble in my hand. So anyway, that's it. Pointless add-on. No point in talking about crazy people. beyond the fact that society does end up listening to them, which is quite hilarious. I mean, it's very counterproductive that they turn them into notorious characters or infamous or important, socially relevant. It is kind of it's sort of encouraging the crime in a way, is to make these people mean something, is giving them what they want in the end, is well, I sure made a mess, didn't I? I mean, that's all they want to do, is have their reality acknowledged. I am significant, and the proof is, look at the mess I made. So, I mean, any effect is better than no effect. Being irrelevant is unacceptable. And so when they just make them relevant, you're just encouraging the next crazy. Oh, better put water on those. They're looking quite starved. So much to do. Lazy cat. Sleeping by the other cat's dish. Oh, God, I'll be able to swat her easy now, but when she shows up, I'll hit her. That's his attitude, I guess. It's not very nice. Cats, politics of the cats. Where's my watering can? I have my little pussy gay girly watering can somewhere. This is my manly watering can. I have some little. There's a little one. I gotta fix my hose, is what I gotta do, so I don't have to mess with this watering can crap. So many things to do. So anyway, till next time, and such, so forth and whatnot.